And today's top trender, Badger Battle.
Glenn Grothman wants to take fellow Republican Tom Petrie's seat.
Let's get ready to rumble! The Wisconsin state senator wants to bring his anti-woman record to Washington.
I know a lot of gals who are having kids out of wedlock.
I was the author of the 24-hour waiting period for abortions.
You talk to an average girl, average gal.
The vast majority of women who are having children, they are not accidents. I think people are trained to say that this is a surprise to me because there's still enough of a stigma that they're supposed to state it.
The man who led the repeal of the Equal Pay Act could argue that money is more important for men.
A lot of women like to stay at home and have their husbands be the primary breadwinner.
But the leadership class in this country had sent a clear message to all these nice, cute, middle-class girls.
Oh, we got a dandy on the horizon, don't we? Joining me tonight, Ruth Conniff, editor-in-chief of the Progressive magazine, and of course I'm talking about Glenn Grothman possibly being in the United States Congress. Ruth, great to have you with us tonight. Glenn Grothman on women's rights. What does that sound like to you?
Get ready, Ed. Get ready, America. We've been watching Glenn here in Wisconsin for a while, and if you thought Scott Walker was extreme, wait till you get a load of Glenn Grothman. You know, Glenn is, he's a true believer. I mean, I have to give him that. He will talk to anybody, and he will say things that his Republican colleagues will not say because they alienate people. And he's the guy who's really obsessed with other people's families and with women's reproductive choices in a way that is pretty far out there. Not to mention the fact that he recently sponsored a bill to repeal the weekend because he thinks that workers don't do anything on their day off. People ought to be able to work 7 days in a row, he says. So, yeah, I think people are going to be surprised when they meet Glenn.
He has sponsored a bill to repeal the weekend.
That's right, Ed. Yeah, Glenn feels that people need to work 7 days in a row.
I have to ask you, what was his logic behind that? What did he say about that?
Well, one of the things he said was that he doesn't see people performing public service on their day off, so he doesn't think they're using their time well. He couched it in terms of the freedom of workers who are prevented unnecessarily from working 7 consecutive days. But really, of course, this is what, most of the Republican agenda is about, which is making sure that workers make as little as possible, work as much as possible, and the people who own companies are able to take as much of the profits and give as little as they can to the workers. So, but the way that he comes right out there with this stuff is pretty surprising. No MLK Day for Glenn, and no more of that famous holiday Saturday if he gets his way.
Okay, so he would really, even though he's from Wisconsin, not Minnesota, he would be the perfect replacement in the party for Michelle Bachmann. I mean, that's basically what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, with his...
Yeah, he's willing to say really outrageous things, and he's worried about things other people aren't worried about, like whether there's sort of a mass slaughter of little girls going on because of legal abortion. He has this peculiar theory about Planned Parenthood as being an extremely nefarious organization that promotes the genocide of little girls. I mean, it's strange stuff, but he does really believe it, and he'll be very candid. I mean, reporters enjoy talking to him because he'll say things like the names of the corporate sponsors, the lobbyists behind legislation that he's promoting. We're just doing this for this company. So he's a loose cannon.
Okay, loose cannon, but he's really perfect for the right wing. This guy's going to get a flood of money from Americans for Prosperity, or am I wrong on that?
Well, he's a Tea Party type Republican. He is running against a moderate Republican who's been there for 13 terms. So it's a reach, but I think it's possible that he'll get a lot of support and win. And I guess it depends on whether, the National Party wants to appeal to a really extreme part of the base, or whether they want to appear more moderate, because Glenn's not going to help him with that.
Do you think he has a serious chance to win in Wisconsin?
I think he might.
Okay.
I think he may be going to Washington, Ed.
Wow.
I hate to say it because I'm from the progressive tradition in Wisconsin. It's an old and fine tradition, and the more I travel around the country, the more I have to try to explain that to people who see Scott Walker and Paul Ryan and now, God forbid, Glenn Grothman on the national stage.
Are there women that are going to vote for this guy in Wisconsin? I mean, he has such an archaic view of women's rights. We're back to the kitchen and barefoot and pregnant, aren't we?
Yeah, he says really outrageous stuff about women. I mean, he wants to make it officially child abuse to be a single mother. You know, and this is from a guy who's not married and doesn't have kids. I mean, the obsession with people's families and the defense of the family, you know, by preventing people from getting access to reproductive health care and saying condescending things about women is not going to help him. But there's a very strong, organized anti-abortion movement in Wisconsin that will back him, because that's really whose water he's carrying. And that's not a small political force. I mean, that's the reason that Scott Walker and Paul Ryan have gotten as far as they got. They got their start as being really in the tank for the very extreme pro-lifers.
Ruth Conniff, great to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much. From the Progressive Magazine.